Hello, I'm Gerard Saylor of the O.D. Fargo Public Library in beautiful downtown Lake Mills, Wisconsin. And recently there's been a slew of South African crime novels and mystery novels that have been coming out in the U.S. And I bought about 3 of them, and I've read 2 of them. First one I read was Blood Safari by Deon Meyer, and the second one is Wake Up Dead by Roger Smith. I just finished this one a couple days ago. And they're very much alike in that there's a woman in danger, a guy who comes to help, and really bad people after the woman. But Blood Safari is more conventional, and Wake Up Dead, the kind of plot and storyline that you'd be used to, and Wake Up Dead is quite a bit different and very gritty and brutal. Blood Safari, Lemmer is a professional bodyguard, has been since he was 18 years old and joined the police force. He served some time in prison when, after he got out of the police department, he kind of wigged out and accidentally killed a guy by beating him to death. And he works as a professional bodyguard, and he's hired by his agency to protect a woman, a very petite woman, beautiful, who thinks that her life is in danger. Lemmer and his employer don't really quite believe it, but they take the assignment anyway. And they travel off to the Kruger National Park and the area around it because the woman thinks that her long assumed dead brother is actually still alive. And they start kind of investigating this, and Lemmer he's not quite believing it, when there's an attempt on her life, and she's very badly injured in a coma. And Lemmer, who, like I said, he's been a professional bodyguard for about 20 years, he's never actually had a client have a serious attempt on him, let alone been injured or killed. And so he takes this personally, professionally, and also personally, because he's kind of fallen for the girl. And the agency supports him in this because it makes them look bad. And so Lemmer starts to investigate and finds out what's going on, and there's shooting and dying and all sorts of neat stories about the way things were 20, 30 years ago, and how those past politics in South Africa kind of are still boomeranging around and affecting things today. Like, for instance, one thing about the Kruger National Park area, it's very reliant on tourism and parks. But a lot of the black tribes are upset because they say that land was taken away from them 100 years ago to make these parks, and they have legal claims for that land back. And the tribes themselves are competing over who should get the land. And at the same time, the white tribes, like you have English and the Dutch South Africans, the Afrikaans, Italians, Eastern Europeans, they're all competing as well for a piece of the pie. And then you got the whole post-apartheid thing going on, where the blacks are in more positions of power, and you have white guys who are very competent, and they just kind of assume all the black guys are incompetent, and you get this clash there. Like I said, it's very conventional in that the guy is there kind of to save the girl. I mean, she's kind of a strong character herself, and I mean, she needs his professional assistance, and then a romance develops and ends up that way in the end. Whereas in Wake Up Dead, it's very similar in that there's a girl in trouble, and there's a guy who kind of comes to rescue her, but he doesn't really give a rat's ass about her. The only reason he's there is because he needs dough. And what happens is she and her husband are carjacked one night. They live in Cape Town on the west coast of South Africa, in a very uber-wealthy area. The husband is shot. The carjackers take off. He's shot in the leg, and so the wife uses this perfect opportunity to pick up the husband's gun and shoot him in the face and kill him. And the guy who kind of comes to protect her is Billy Africa, who is a mercenary who was owed about $30,000 by the dead husband. He figures, well, I got to stay with this woman if I want my money back. And at the same time, there's a lot of other characters going around. There's a policeman who's investigating this murder. There's the carjackers themselves. There's a prison convict who wants to break out and get after one of these hijackers who was his prison wife. There's a lot of things going on. This is a fantastic novel because it really contrasts the rich, super rich part of Cape Town, right on the coast, with all these high-end fashion boutiques, versus Cape Flats, which is on the inland area, hot and dusty and dirty, which is an old settlement shanty town, where pretty much all there is a high crime rate and a few places to live. Murder, robbery, rape, theft, burglary, drug abuse, massive, horrible child abuse. Seems to be pretty commonplace in the flats. There's some good families that keep it together, and then meanwhile everybody else is just falling apart. And it's a really brutal and gritty novel. Like in this, in Blood Safari, there's redemption and hope and happiness. And in Wake Up Dead, it's more guilt and fear. But both of them, in their own way, are really fantastic. I thought Wake Up Dead was really well done, really gripping, really pulls you along. And at the end, it's really rather, there's two characters who come out through this together, and it's really very positive, and it leaves you feeling pretty good at the end. But they're both really good. Two South African writers. Deon Meyer actually wrote in The Africans, the Dutch, and it was translated, and I give congratulations on the translator, because that can't be easy, doing that kind of translation and turning it back into really such a great book. And Roger Smith, I don't know what language he wrote in, but he did a good job, and he has some other books out as well. So I'm Gerard Saylor from the L.D. Fargo Public Library in beautiful downtown Lake Mills, Wisconsin, and that's what's to read.